I know there are a lot of people that want to jump straight into mobile app development, and it's actually really cool because this is a great time to start doing that. And the reason why I say that is there's multiple frameworks out there that have been very, very well developed, like not thrown under the bus, not just stuck on the internet without a community to back it or anything. This is very well developed frameworks is what we're working with. So I'm gonna go through my top 3 recommendations for just cross-platform development, and these are in very different areas. And I'll tell you kind of the pros and cons to each one, kind of my time wrestling with these, and I'm going to leave my recommendation kind of at the end of the video if you guys are interested in, hey, I've never developed a mobile app before and I don't even know where to start. Well, I can tell you right now there are some great tutorials out there that can help you with this, but if you're trying to debate on, okay, what's the best framework to work with, and what has batteries included that I don't even have to do a lot of the programming already because it's built in. But let's say you want to be able to customize a lot of things. There's a lot of things that we can kind of go through with that. So let's jump into the first one that's shown on your screen, and that is React Native. I can't really say to how much this is backed. This is kind of the industry standard right now, is React Native. A lot of people, a lot of businesses are using React Native. They also use things like Vue. I believe Vue is also a web application, but React Native is focused on using like React.js to create mobile apps using JavaScript. And you can even see that they try to make it cross-platform for multiple things, not just mobile, but for PCs, for laptops, for tablets. They try to make it basically work with everything. And they make a lot of claims like create native apps for Android and iOS using React.js if you're not familiar, and different parts of native development with React, a best-in-class JavaScript library for building user interfaces. And this is more than just user interfaces. This is the backend. You can work on the backend using native. Of course, this is mostly targeting front-end development, but you can do a lot of backend work with this setup, which is amazing. Written in JavaScript, rendered with native code. React primitives render to native platform UI, meaning your app uses the same native platform APIs other apps do. So basically, to kind of break it down, this is written in JavaScript and it uses the same kind of industry standard for mobile apps working. So you know that it's going to be compatible with other things. Many platforms, one React. Create platform-specific versions of components so a single codebase can share code across platforms. With React Native, one team can maintain 2 platforms and share a common technology, React. And there's a bunch of other things. I don't want to just read their whole website to you, but just kind of give you guys a brief showing of kind of the stuff you can do, because they have a lot of fast refreshes, like different features and stuff. And again, they promise cross-platform. It's very fascinating. There is a huge community here, and here it is. This is kind of their big flex. This is what React is used for to create these different games. I say games because I'm looking at Discord and Call of Duty here and Game Pass, but these different apps. So that's only one framework, but this is a very well-known framework. If y'all are interested in getting into JavaScript, if you're more familiar with JavaScript, HTML, CSS, this is probably for you right here, is React Native. And I don't want to get into how to set up React Native, but this is just one recommendation of mine. I know there's a huge backing in the community. There's a lot of different things assisting with developing the applications, so definitely check that out. It's pretty cool. Now, if we can go to the next, we should be able to go over to the next page here. Let me double check. Okay, so I was going to get into Flutter. Flutter is kind of like my go-to. This is my recommendation. Highly recommend using Flutter, but I don't want to get into all the details till the end. But this is Google's, and again, React Native is more of a, I don't remember where the founding of it was. I know it's very much so open source to some extent. I don't know how far, but Flutter is very well known in the community. This is all built by Google, and they created their own language called Dart, so you will have to be using the Dart language if you're not familiar with Dart. However, it is built around Flutter, so like Flutter works very well with Dart. It's kind of built for Dart, or for Flutter, I mean. Dart is the programming language, Flutter is the framework. And here are some of the applications that people have made, and these are real, like you can build these in Flutter with no time. And again, Flutter is an open source framework by Google for building beautiful, natively compiled, multi-platform applications from a single code base. And I can say right now it is fast. Not just fast, but coding is really fast. Programming this is very fast. They say productive. It's very quick. Like you can do things. Look, this is literally one line. I have actually written something like this before, where you can set a dark mode and a light mode, and that is actually what happens. Is this really nice transition. And by flexible, you can move things around anywhere on the screens. It's not limited by really the only limit is your imagination when it comes to Flutter. It is multi-platform as well, covers all the bases, and again, this is super easy to learn. I barely even know Dart, and I've built one application that I'm very proud of. But I haven't like sat down and kind of developed a ton with it. Just having the knowledge of how efficient this platform is, it's amazing. And again, Flutter is powered by Dart, a language optimized for fast applications on any platform. Literally is built for, it's built for Flutter. Like Google made a programming language for Flutter. So that's just something to show you guys. I highly recommend Flutter, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Okay, this one's a little bit more controversial. Xamarin was originally created by college students years and years ago. This is a story that I was told by a professor of mine, but this was bought out by Microsoft. Microsoft took it over. It's built using C#, so you use C# to create mobile apps. Xamarin is pretty well developed. Last time I used it, it was in like an early beta, I think. So they've changed it a lot. Like it's way different than it once was. Less buggy. There were a ton of bugs when I started using it originally, but C# is fairly easy to learn if you're already used to like Java or C++ or any language like that. Xamarin is a great cross-platform framework for you to use if you're familiar with C#. So the three frameworks I've kind of went over here all promise the same thing when it comes to cross-platform mobile applications. Again, there are some features. This is less. With Xamarin, there's a lot of like things that are built in, but it's a little bit more hard to implement. You have to work with XAML and kind of like get it all situated. If you're not a fan of XAML, you're gonna have a tough time with this. But XAML is one thing that you have to utilize. C# classes, of course, have knowledge of model, view model, or sorry, views, view model, and then models. The MVVM, I think is what it is. You need to recognize all that stuff when it comes to developing these applications. But in Xamarin, it is very cool. It's very, it is open source as well. It's very well developed as of now. And again, I haven't used it since it was in beta, but I do remember it being, having a huge learning curve. That's my only downside with this framework. While Flutter has a very shorter learning curve than the others, but React is also built with JavaScript, so that's kind of my breakdown of these. I'm going to go back to Flutter really quick and kind of show you guys why I choose Flutter as a main framework. Flutter is developed by Google, and Google does have a tendency to destroy their projects every once in a while. However, Flutter's YouTube channel has grown exponentially in the past 2 or 3 years. And I've been watching this growth as the community's kind of started to grow and develop, and there are extensions that you can actually install that a lot of the community has made themselves to make these applications easier. And anytime an extension becomes very common, you see often that Flutter will create a widget for you to use in their applications that's built in. It's a batteries included framework, meaning a lot of the backend stuff you don't have to worry about because they've kind of built everything for you. And you don't really have to worry too much about that stuff. You just need to worry about creating and designing whatever you want to design. And again, there is always a learning curve with adapting a different framework, and it is kind of hard to sit down and say, well, I think this one would be best for my team. Personally, I would say the easiest one for people to learn is probably Flutter if you don't, if you're willing to pick up another programming language and you have time. Now, Flutter is an easy framework to pick up. Dart is also an easy language to pick up, and documentation is very free. It's very open and willing to. It's so detailed. I can't even really express how detailed this is. If we come here to the docs, here is all the documentation that you really need to know. Getting started is super easy. They have an install process for even Linux and Chrome OS. I don't know why Chrome OS is, well, it is Google. But we have Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. Linux is a big deal. And then setting up an editor, it even has support for VS Code, which I love the most. I love being able to use VS Code. It's simply installing the extensions for it, and you're good to go. Test driving is easy once you have installed Flutter on your machine and went through the install process. It's super easy. So there's even some things here, if you guys aren't familiar, from another platform. It kind of gives you a breakdown. Here's Android devs, iOS devs. Kind of gives you what are views, how do I update widgets, stuff like that. React Native developers, they give you detailed documentation on what is what. And even here's for web developers, trying to break the mold when it comes to web development. And again, here's Xamarin Forms. As you see here, they break down a lot of different things. They even have an introduction to widgets and what a widget is. They even show you output. It may not be working right now. Let's see if it will. Yeah, it's not working at the moment, but a lot of these different things are very, very, oh man, it's so detailed. Like I can't even express how insane this stuff is. I think I need to install the SDK is what it is. But all of these, handling gestures and changing widgets in response to input, adding interactivity, and these are little applications that they have in their documentation that's really easy to learn, really easy to take a look at. Highly recommend using Flutter. All I'm saying is Flutter is a great framework to use. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed using Flutter. The other frameworks are pretty good as well, so don't say I'm, dishing out anything against these frameworks. Like, I definitely enjoy these frameworks, but Flutter is one that kind of is dear to my heart because it's open source, it's open to a developer community that's growing rapidly, and I think this is something that could become standard other than React Native, knowing that a lot of people have a web background kind of getting into this. But this is a really good start, and I'm hoping to make a video in the future about Flutter development and how to dive into using a framework in development, and kind of where do you start when you don't know how to develop with a framework. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope to post more on different topics like this, and hopefully give you guys some insight into maybe what some developers are looking at when it comes to problems like this, trying to figure out what framework works best for my project. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.